The quality of our breath can directly reflect the quality of our internal environment. So have you ever been through something really scary or something that took you by surprise and you found yourself holding your breath? Have you ever felt really scared and you feel like you're breathing really rapidly in your chest? Have you ever found or heard someone sleeping and you notice how their breath becomes really repetitive? It comes a little bit deeper because they're peacefully resting. See how the breath can really expose what's happening on the inside. So let's learn more about this limb of yoga, pranayama. So you've been to a few or maybe many yoga classes and you are hooked. Somehow you feel better, kinder, more connected to yourself and those around you. Your friends view you as a hippie now, and your parents, well, they think it's a phase. Regardless, when you are on your mat, you are home. Yoga teachers and students, come learn how yoga can help you navigate the daily grind, breakups, your anxiety from a place of clarity and compassion. Welcome to the Modern Yogi podcast, hosted by me, Laura Siljander. Misfits, earthlings, yogis, take a deep breath, check in to see how you're doing, body, mind, and soul, because you have arrived. Welcome back to the Modern Yogi podcast with me, Laura. Y'all, sorry about the break. Life got a little bit wild there for a bit, but we're back, baby. And we are still on our series of Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga. But let's talk about some stuff. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I have the unedited version. So you get to hear me shuffling around all my resources. You get to see the intro dance. I like to finger dance. It's a thing. More people should do it and feel comfortable doing it. So there is the unedited version up on YouTube. You get to see the talking head, which is me. And if you are watching that, you'll notice that I am not at home. I am not in my regular office or studio. I am actually in Moab again. It's this surfer beach bum just loves the desert, I guess. If you've never heard of Moab, Utah before, just Google it. Just really quickly Google it if you're not driving or doing anything sketchy, or if you're bored one night scrolling through social. Look up the hashtag Moab, M-O-A-B, and you'll think you've landed on Mars. It's wild. I wanted to talk to you about something because I feel like if I'm struggling with something, then maybe some of you are too. I quit coffee. Yes, I quit coffee for, golly, I would say about 2.5 months. And it's because it was hurting my belly. I even went to the doctor about it and they said you have too acidic of a diet and your coffee is hurting you. So it was almost like it's acid reflux response, but instead of going up my lungs and having kind of like a burny lung, it was going down into my belly and making it feel like I drank battery acid and where my lower abdominals felt like they were on fire. Very uncomfortable. It is a little bit of a controversial thing to talk about caffeine and yoga because some yogis believe that caffeine is a no-no and other yogis think caffeine's fine. So whatever works for you is where I like to be. I enjoy caffeine, but I feel like I was drinking my coffee really mindlessly before and just drinking it whenever I wanted, whatever time of day. So I feel like I was being a little frivolous with it and it showed. And my belly said, I don't like this anymore. So I stopped and drank tea for a few months and headaches were a thing. I wasn't quite on my A game. If this is happening to you, if you're wanting to explore coffee that doesn't hurt your belly, I actually found something. So I quit for a few months and I said, all right, I'm going to try it again, but I'm going to go for low acid coffee. And Whole Foods has something called a smooth operator, and it's a low acid coffee. And they have all different kinds of flavors. It's part of their 365 brand, and it's, again, called Smooth Operator. I'll put it in the show notes, just in case any of you are wanting to drink your coffee and not have a belly that hurts. I've been drinking it for, I would say, a few weeks now, and everything's good to go. I will say that I drink my coffee a lot more mindfully. I have my 1 cup during the morning, and that's it, but I treasure it rather than taking it for granted. So, when someone takes something away that you're used to having and you really don't take it for granted, like going to the grocery store without a mask or seeing your friends. I think it's something to think about. So again, I'll put in the show notes. I know I'm probably not alone in this. But okay, let's talk about why you're really here, and that's to talk about yoga stuff. All right, so we are on the Patanjali's 8 Limbs of Yoga, and let's just do a quick little brief run through. So Patanjali, we don't know if it was one guy or a group of guys who wrote the Yoga Sutras. Yoga Sutras, hundreds of lessons of how to live like a yogi, how to navigate life as peacefully as possible. Now, it was no accident that Patanjali started the Yoga Sutras with how to regulate our mind. And Patanjali started off saying, if you want to live in samadhi or bliss, nirvana, however you think about living a really peaceful, united existence, he said, Ishvara Pranadana, dedicate your life to God. And most of us say, well, that's really hard to dedicate everything to God. You know, that's tough. I'm not a nun. I'm not a priest. So how do we do this? And Patanjali said, all right, if you can't do that, here are the 8 limbs of yoga. And I'm trying to bring these older teachings into the modern day. Hence the title, Modern Yogi. We started off with the yamas, things like ahimsa, non-harming, and satya, living your truth. Then we moved on to the niyamas, and this is really how we can regulate ourselves. We even talked about sex and moderation and all the things. We went through those one by one. It took a while, but it was so worth it. Now, there's another one, asana, which are the yoga postures. That's limb number 3. And I did a separate podcast about that, a little out of order. It's called Move That Body. And it's all about that limb of yoga, asana, the postures. It's typically what people think about when they think of yoga. You know, they think about people either sitting down crisscross applesauce or like in a warrior pose or whatever. That's what most Westerners think yoga is, are the postures. But, and I said this in that podcast, Patanjali only mentioned asanas a few times out of hundreds of lessons. So I think the Western world has it a little bit mixed around. Please listen to those podcasts if you haven't already. But if you're really into breath, if you're really into breathing, the breathing part of yoga, that's what we're going to go over today. It's the 4th limb, and it's pranayama. Pranayama. So one of those words, yama, we've already gone over. Regulation is yama. Prana, what is that? Before I go into the definition, I'm going to talk about how to do some pranayama on the mat while you're doing your yoga, kind of covering that a little bit, but also how to use pranayama off the mat, which we spend most of our time not on our yoga mat. So let's talk about that too, right? So many lineages include breathing into their practices and believe that breath should be the focal point of the practice. This doesn't sound a lot like the Western yoga we talk about, right? It's more centered around the postures. It's more centered around the asana, not the pranayama. Pranayama, let's go into like the definition of that. Pranayama, it's breathing techniques or breathing regulation. That's to put it really simply. But if you want to break it down a little bit, prana, Prana, a really cool clothing brand too. Little plug for them. Prana is life force. It's this energy that's in everything, especially living things, but it's in everything. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but if you're dialed in enough, you can feel it. Have you ever walked into a room and you feel bad vibes? Have you ever been around a certain person and you're like, I don't know what it is, but like, I want to get out of here? That's this energy exchange. Have you ever been around something or someone so tender, so beautiful that it feels like your insides are smiling? That's an energy exchange. So if we slow down enough, you can actually pick up a lot of prana or energy going on around us. Not to get too woo-woo on you. By breathing, we regulate our prana. We're regulating, manipulating, I guess you could say, our prana. So let me go into that a little bit further. There are different ways that we can use prana to manipulate it, to regulate it. It can be energizing and heating or cooling and calming. We can regulate our prana to do both of these things. And this is something that you can do on and off the mat. So there's different breathing techniques to energize the body, to get it going, to get it excited, to kind of wake up a little bit. And those are things called like breath of fire, Kapalabhati, victorious breath or Ujjayi breath, or ocean sounding breath. They're energizing. It's meant to heat you up, get you going a little bit. There's also pranayamas that are cooling, made to chill you out. This is what I teach my anxiety clients, if they're open to it, is how to chill out, how to cool the body. Usually the teacher will incorporate some of this into either the very beginning or very ending of their yoga classes, and maybe use some of the heating and energizing during some of the peaks. It just depends. But this is how you can regulate your breath in these two different ways. Some examples of cooling and chilling out the body are Dirga Pranayama, that 3-part breath. Have you ever heard your teacher count to 3 for you? Inhale, 1, 2, 3, exhale, 3, 2, 1. Or maybe you've heard your yoga teacher say, inhale, belly, ribs, chest, exhale, chest, ribs, belly. It's usually a deep diaphragmatic breath. It's not shallow and in the chest, it's deep in the belly. It's also a different way to view how to manipulate this prana, this energy, to make it calm you down or to heat you up. On the days that I quit coffee and I was getting a headache, I used Kapalabhati breath of fire. And it helped more than I thought it would. So another way that you can use your breath on the mat is metaphorically. The inhale of the breath, that when you're breathing in through the nose, it's a metaphor for drawing in good positive energy into the body. You're trying to draw in good prana, whether that's you need strength that day or stamina that day or positivity that day or resilience. I can do this. I am strong enough to do this. I love myself. I need to draw in love. That's the metaphor for the inhale. Drawing in the things that you want, that you need that day or in that moment. The exhale in yogic theory, it's to draw out unwanted energy. It's to draw out the anxieties, the fears, the hatred, maybe self-hatred or towards someone else. It's to draw that out and away from you. Not towards someone, but out of you. To let it dissipate. So maybe next time you're setting an intention for your yoga class, you can think about when the teacher is saying, become aware of your inhale and exhale. Maybe you start to breathe in, that energy of, I need strength today. I need courage today. Exhale my fear and my worry. Inhale strength. Exhale worry. That's a beautiful way that you can incorporate some yogic theory and pranayama into your practice on the mat. I'm going to read from one of my books from you, and it says, the United States focuses on fitness and postures, leaving the breath aside. But yoga breathing has been an important part of yoga for thousands of years. In yoga traditions across the world, breath is at the center of the yoga practice. It's at the center. Not the postures, the breath. And when I talked to you about the postures in the last episode of Move That Body, Patanjali talked about how your asanas, your postures should be firm but relaxed. Firm but relaxed means you're also able to regulate your breath. You notice your breathing. You don't lose your breath. During a really hard part in a yoga class, you are almost holding your breath. You're maybe going into Titibhasana or some sort of arm balance or inversion, and you're like, and you push yourself into it, and you almost hold your breath. Patanjali teaches, whoa, back it off. You're not ready for that because you're holding your breath. You've lost your breath. So I know this is very different from the classes we take in the Western world. Very different. But that's how Patanjali taught asana, is when you lose track of your breath, that's when you start to reel in the postures so you can reattach to your breath, because your breath is the focus of the practice, not how far you can get into splits, not if you can rest your forehead against your thighs in a forward fold. Because the second you start to lose your breath, you start to strain the face. Patanjali says, not yet. Back it off. Interesting way to view yoga, right? A yoga class. Once you've been doing yoga for a while and you know what the postures feel like for the most part in your body, you can really dial in that breath concept into your classes. You can really use it to pace your class. So think about this. There's a few people that I know, they'll literally take Dirga the whole class, and they have a very strong practice. It's called a slow flow. You can also use breath to speed it up. Inhale, arms up, exhale, forward fold. Things of that nature. So using breath to kind of be the tempo of the class. Pretty interesting ways to manipulate your prana. And then you can say, whoa, I'm getting really hot here. I should maybe stop using ujjayi breath and maybe come into more like a simple breath awareness that I'm trying to cool my body off. So again, using that inhale, exhale metaphor, using different sort of breaths to heat you up, cool you down. You can use breath to pace your class. You can use your breath as sort of a baseline of, oh, do I need to back off on this posture? When you start practicing in this way, you will feel a huge or a united feeling of your mind, body, and spirit like you never have. I challenge you. I challenge you. Slow your practice down enough to be able to experience this. It's hard to do this for a whole hour, especially if you're in a room full of people. Sometimes if I'm walking into a power class and I know that, I will say, okay, I'm going to do the breath thing 10 minutes. I'm not going to, as soon as I lose track of my breath, I'm going to come back. So try maybe massaging this idea in by incorporating it slowly into your practice rather than, I'm going to do this the whole 60 to 75 minutes. Maybe doing it like the first 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So let's also talk about how we can use pranayama off the mat. 2020 was an interesting year, and I think everyone dealt with a level of stress like they never have before in different ways. We all suffered in different ways. We all grew in different ways, but let's just talk about how we can use breath to regulate our energy off the mat. So I want to really talk about how yoga and breath can affect stress and anxiety through the nervous system. I'm not going to get too technical on you, no worries, but we feel stress. Now, stress wasn't supposed to be a bad thing. Stress was supposed to keep us alive. Stress is supposed to motivate us to do stuff we don't want to do. Like, I have to get this thing done, and I'll feel stress if that due date creeps closer and closer. Your stress rises because you're supposed to get it done. So stress was actually something that was supposed to help us. We have taken stress and we have turned it into anxiety. When you feel stress, it's not a terrible thing. It's prolonged feelings of stress that leads to dis-ease or disease, generalized anxiety. My clients who come to see me who have anxiety, they deal with ongoing stress because it doesn't turn off. About the nervous system. We've got this nervous system, and we've got these interesting two main branches. One's the sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze. I am so scared, I can't move. I am so scared that I want to fight back. I am so scared I want to run away. And then we have the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest. You're going to bed, you're chilling after a big meal. So we have sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, and then parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest. So think about those. We've got these two branches. Now, if we stay stressed, if we stay in that flight, fight, or freeze, a second wave gets activated through the HPA. It's an adrenal axis. It's your pituitary adrenal axis, and when this happens, when we stay stressed, say for a few weeks, stress hormones such as cortisol wreaks havoc on our body and our immune system. This is, again, when we're stressed for days, weeks, and even months without reprieve. We get anxious, We get emotional. We're really emotionally fragile, and we get super burnt out. Are you any of these things? It means you're in your flight, fight, or freeze, and now your body is cranking these stress hormones that are wreaking havoc on your bod. But there's hope. Don't worry. I wouldn't just deliver bad news. Yoga helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system, stopping the negative cycle on stress. So remember we had those 2 chains? You're staying in flight, fight, freeze for too long, and now you're feeling anxious, emotional, fragility, you're feeling burnt out. It's because you haven't hit that rest and digest. Sometimes your sleeping is totally off because you can't turn it off. Yoga, especially the right kind of postures and breath, help this. Helps you tap into the parasympathetic nervous system. Helps you tap into the rest and digest. I know I'm being repetitive, but this is how we learn. A national survey showed that 85% of people who did yoga helped them reduce their stress. Across 25 research studies shows that yoga and breath reduce symptoms of depression, anxiety, and stress. There is hope. When you practice certain energy regulations, it can help click on this parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system that we need, this part of the nervous system that we need, getting you out of that cycle of stress. Now, it takes time. It takes time to say, I am stressed, I am anxious, I'm going to start doing my breathing. I am I am anxious, and I need to start doing my yoga. It takes a lot of tapas, discipline, to say, I'm going to do this thing, rather than just like numb out and get on Instagram and like try to forget how stressed I am. So there are different ways that you can turn on this energy prana regulation, pranayama. And again, remember how I said there's the heating, energizing element, and the cooling, chill out, de-stress element. By doing things like diaphragmatic breathing, different type of pranayamas that make you relax a little bit more. And that's taking deep, slow breaths with emphasis on the exhale. If you want to rest and digest, the biggest bang for your buck in a breath cycle is on the exhale. So some things that I would recommend you probably trying or doing is just starting out playing with a ratio breath. And it depends on where you are at on your yogic journey, but maybe starting off with inhaling for 3 seconds, exhaling for 4. Or it could be more like a 1-to-2 ratio where you inhale for 2, exhale for 4. So starting with sort of this ratio breathing, finding what works best for you. Some ways to start your breath is you sit up nice and tall, or you can lay down if you're in bed. Think tall spine, think drawing the shoulders away from your ears. Softening your face, softening your jaw, softening your body as much as you can. If you're too tense or anxious, you can ball up your hands into a fist. And then that's when you start your breath cycles. Maybe inhaling through the nose, puffing out the belly for 2 seconds. Slow exhale out of the mouth or nose, you decide. Yogic breathing is typically done mouth or nose on the exhale. There has been a lot of research saying that you should always exhale out of the nose, but what if you're congested? Trying something as simple as this and doing at least 6 rounds, can help start to tap into that parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest. Slow, deep ratio breathing. Here's the one thing that you want to avoid, or a few things that you want to avoid when you're trying this, is if you see someone take a deep breath, and even try it right now, unless you're in a place where you can't, take a deep breath. If you notice that just your chest and shoulders lifted, that is not exactly the breath we're talking about here. So if you take a deep breath again through the nose, and you feel your chest and shoulders come up, that is not exactly what we're going for. What we're going for is more of that diaphragmatic belly breath. Now, if you're driving or on a jog or whatever, this may not work, but if you're just chilling and kind of sitting at your desk, you can bring your hand to your belly, which all kinds of things can go through our heads when we touch our belly. I know, it's a complicated area. We're supposed to start our breath from here, starting our breath from our belly, not the chest. So if you can imagine inhaling through your nose and pushing your belly out like a beach ball's expanding. Now slowly exhale through the nose or mouth. Try again. Inhale, fill up the belly. Belly puffs up, rounds like a Buddha. And exhale out of nose or mouth, slow. Just try it one more time if you want to. Inhale, fill the belly. Exhale slowly. So see the difference between belly breathing and chest breathing. Chest breathing, if you're breathing in the chest, that can actually put you in flight, fight, or freeze because that's anxiety. If you've ever seen someone have an anxiety attack, you'll see that their chest is rapidly going up and down and they can't seem like they can get a full breath in. So I hope this was helpful, this limb of yoga. Now, I really want, if you could start to put these pieces together because Patanjali was a genius. So Patanjali starts off with how can we treat our environment, how to find peace around us with the people around us with our environment. And then Patanjali says, how do you have peace with yourself? And then Patanjali says, all right, let's move the body. We can kind of move our muscles around in a safe way. Now Patanjali is teaching us how to breathe. How can we breathe to really regulate our energy? Now the next few limbs of yoga get really exciting and kind of wild. We're going to start moving into deeper contemplative practices in the next few limbs here. We get more into meditation. We get more of being very present in the moment. These next 4 limbs after this is really where you start to connect all of these limbs and the beauty of how they're taught. As we move through these limbs of yoga, you start to incorporate them into your practice and into your life. You'll see how they're all very connected. Please let me know if you have any questions about pranayama. Please let me know if you want me to do any videos of how to demonstrate some of these with you as well. If you reach out and let me know that's what you want, I'll throw them up on YouTube and you can have fun with it. Please practice that compassion with your thoughts, the thoughts that you think about yourself, the thoughts that you have about others. We are in a very polarized time. Practice that compassion with your speech. So thinking, is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it true? And then practicing that compassion with your actions. Using pranayama to maybe regulate your energy, whether that is you need a spike or you need to chill out. I'll talk to you soon. I won't go this long next time. Shalom. Oh, you're still here. Or you just haven't turned off your podcast yet. Did you know I have a YouTube channel? What? Yes, I know. I already plugged it already, but this YouTube channel is chock full with awesome stuff. It's chock full with classes, full yoga classes, full. You've got 30-minute yoga classes to 75-minute yoga classes and everything in between. So that's where some of my podcasts live. So I know you love listening on Stitcher and Spotify and iTunes, but just in case you want to listen on the tube, you can do it there. I also have a playlist of meditations. I have playlists of meditations anywhere from 7-minute beginner meditations to, I think my longest one is about 17 minutes. No, 45 Yoga Nidra. So if you don't know what Yoga Nidra is, it's called yogic sleep. And it's a 45-minute meditation where you're supposed to be totally propped up. It's wonderful. So if these are some things that you would like to access, it's free. Just go to the Modern Yogi on YouTube and there I am. Please subscribe. That's a wonderful way you can support me with pressing the subscribe button. If you would too, subscribe to the podcast because again, that's a way that you can support me and keep this podcast going. Share with a friend or a fellow yogi if you think this will help. All right, that's all I have for you this week, y'all. See ya!